Joining us now is a woman, one of the only journalists in the country following George Soros, Cheryl Chumley, who works for the Washington Times. She has a book, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, a very fine book called Lockdown, The Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. And George Soros is right in the middle of that book. And she joins us now from Northern Virginia. All right, Cheryl, so I ran down Soros. And I know that you are writing and working on exposing him through a group that's watching him. Tell us about that. It's opensecrets.com. Is that what it is?
opensecrets.org. And thank you for having me to talk about this issue. Open Secrets is a nonprofit, and it's the Center for Responsive Politics that partnered with another group that used to track state campaigns and state dollars. And so now they're joined together, they're taking a look at both federal and state campaign cash, and they cover everything. They're an amazing outlet. They cover PACs, super PACs, and more importantly, that dark money. In 2020 election season alone, Open Secrets found that $1 billion were pumped into dark money outlets, and another $3 billion went from foreign sources to U.S. lobbying efforts between the years 2016 and 2021. So the money that's influencing our own elected officials is astounding, and it's really astonishing when you start looking at the numbers for George Soros and other leftist groups alone.
Okay, now explain what dark money is.
So unlike PACs, right, which have reporting requirements to the FEC and have limits on contributions, it's, for instance, $5,000 per candidate that a PAC can contribute, and it's like $15,000 per committee. Super PACs, on the other hand, have reporting requirements to the FEC but don't have limits. Dark money groups, however, have no limits on the number of dollars that can be siphoned to committees, and they also don't have to report to the FEC their donors. So all this money that feeds into dark money groups can then, in turn, be given to PACs and super PACs. So this is where it becomes very difficult to track down the dollars that are going to any given candidate.
And those groups, they can buy television commercials, they can buy radio spots, they can buy staff, the people who go out and bundle votes. They can do a whole bunch of things. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, we learned after the fact, pumped millions of dollars into the presidential campaign to try to get more votes for Joe Biden. But that's not, Zuckerberg didn't do dark money. That was a direct thing, right?
Right. And here's an example. You brought up Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, right? So he received $1.1 million, but not directly from George Soros. He received it from groups that George Soros supported. So you can see where that tracking becomes very difficult. If you want to research all the races and all the candidates at any given time in America, it's nearly impossible for one person to do, which is why Open Secrets is so great. It's your go-to for that kind of information. But it's also very difficult for the average voter to understand where that money goes.
Yeah, and do you know how many groups Soros funds? How many of these groups he has lined up to do what he wants done? Do you know how many?
I'm going to say conservatively hundreds, and here's what I base it on. Since 2016, right, George Soros' money from PACs has funded to the tune of $29 million, roughly 20 district attorney races. That's just the DA races. And what gets confusing about that is that they're called different races depending on the state. In Virginia, it's the Commonwealth's attorney. There's also other terms, circuit attorney. So you have to take that into consideration. But George Soros has also established in almost every state in the nation these PACs that are called Justice and Safety PACs or Public Safety and Justice PACs. And into that gets funneled Soros-tied money, which in turn gets funneled into certain groups and candidates depending on the amounts. Then you have, of course, George Soros's Open Society Foundation, which you can go to Open Secrets and track where all the tentacles of donations go on that. So I'm going to guess conservatively hundreds of groups that George Soros is tied to in terms of funding.
Now, Soros's philosophy is He doesn't want incarceration for criminals, right? Particularly minority criminals. He believes it's society's fault that they're committing those crimes. He doesn't want border enforcement. He wants an open border. He wants legalized narcotics. Doesn't want any drug enforcement. Does he want socialism? Is he pushing socialism?
Well, not directly, right? He doesn't come out and wave a banner saying, I'm a socialist. But if you look at what socialism entails, part and parcel of socialist government and society is the crippling of law enforcement. It's the division of law enforcement and the justice system. Here in America, we're supposed to have justice is blind, right? But how Democrats work, how the left works, how socialists work is they create these different groups that then they pit against each other. So they all fall on warring factions, which is where the government then can come in and pretend to create calm out of the chaos. So going after the justice system in America is certainly one way to advance a socialist type agenda.
Yeah, and he wants to break it down entirely, defund the police. He's behind that. He's behind all it. Now, he's going to die soon, Soros, but his son, I hear, is even more radical than he is, and his son is running a lot of these operations, correct?
His son's name I have seen already on Open Secrets, reporting and tracking of money. I haven't dived into specifically what his sons are involved in yet, but it seems a legacy. It seems, that's what's going to be passed down in their family.
Now, the midterm elections, largely people believe the Republicans are going to take both houses now because of the debacle of the Biden administration and the Democratic Party. But that's not going to inhibit Soros. He's going to continue to pump as much money as he can to try to influence the voters who don't know very much. They call them low information voters, to try to get this propaganda out on radio and television. And, if you were a district attorney, if you're running and you have 2 million and your opponent has 300,000, you can overwhelm. Now, final question is, Soros and Gascon, the DA in LA County, they're like this. But Gascon, I think, is toast now because of what happened to Bodine. How do you see it?
Well, I would agree with you, but I would also caution about cheering too loudly about Bodine and about Gascon and so forth, because in the wings are scores more of Soros-funded candidates that are coming to the forefront. For instance, Albuquerque, New Mexico's district attorney, Raul Torres, he was elected in 2016, I think it was, with only about $107,000 worth of Soros-tied money, but he was running unopposed, so that money was really not even necessary. Under his tenure, homicides have just jumped this year to 102, which is record amounts. Last year, they were only 67. This guy just this week won his Democratic primary for the state's attorney general. So it's not just Soros wins and losses for certain candidates. It's about getting Soros's candidates in the pipeline so that they can then move on to higher offices.
It's amazing because thousands of people are dying because of George Soros and his philosophy. So once again, it's opensecrets.org. All the listeners and viewers of the No Spin News should write that down and check in. And then Cheryl Chumley's book, Lock Down the Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. It's out in the marketplace and you might get it. Cheryl, thanks very much as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.